Ida Rönnlund, CEO at Four Ferries, Scandinavian award winner of the Global EdTech Startups Award, the world's largest EdTech startup community and competition. Additionally, she's been a researcher at the Åbo Academy University at the Laboratory of Process Design and Systems Engineering. And I'll let her speak more about her story, so let's go right to it. Welcome to the podcast, Ida. How are you doing?
Thank you so much. I'm good, thank you. Really
Fantastic.
happy to be here.
Fantastic. Thanks for coming. So let's start with maybe your journey into education technology. How did that start? And maybe you can reference to your own education, maybe research.
I think my interest for teaching, that started already like when I was young in my own class. Our teachers changed all the time. So we happened to be on a class where we had a new teacher every year in mathematics. And it so happened that my father, who is also the founder of this company, he is a researcher in mathematics, and he could help me when the teachers couldn't. And that led to that in class I was then helping all my fellow friends there with the assignments when they had problems. So I got used to sort of teaching all through my years in school and helping students. And that's sort of where the inspiration has started. And why I really like doing what I'm now doing at the moment.
Okay, so how did that turn into education technology and the product company that you're now leading?
Yeah.
Since, is it 2018?
Yes. Yeah. So in 2018, I jumped into eMathStudio then and formed the product and started selling to schools. And Four Ferries, which is the company behind our product eMathStudio, was founded already in 2010, and it was based on research at universities in Turku, Åbo Academy University, and Turun Yliopisto University, and also in collaboration with several universities around the world. And what they were looking at then in this so-called learning and reasoning laboratory was looking at how students learn mathematics and how you structure a solution when you are answering a task. So those are one of the key issues. And really, at that point, they started looking at how can we digitalize and start looking at how can a computer understand what a human is writing. And it was well before a lot of or more or less any digital books were out there. But it started from looking at how is the student trying to answer a solution and how can the computer understand what you're doing. And that's from there on, then it was just developing more and more of the technology side to allow a person to write like they want to write the mathematics, but still get the benefits of the analytics and the real-time data that we're able to do.
Okay, fantastic. And did the teachers understand this approach and the product that you were then promoting from the beginning, or what was the, let's say, resistance, if any, or initial challenges to get out?
Yeah, well, initial challenges were that technology wasn't ready for, like the computers in the classes were not good enough. They would shut down in the middle, and they always needed to be updated. The whole environment in class was problematic because nobody knew how to take care of the computers. So that was one problem to actually use any technology in classes. And also internet connections were not good enough. So there was a lot on that side, on the technological development that wasn't there and ready yet. But today the situation is different. There's still a lot for like how a teacher should learn to use computers. That's still a challenge, but technical readiness is pretty good in most countries where we are now operating.
So what is your key, let's say, value proposition to decision makers, looking at now even policymakers being worried about the PISA results falling, wanting to enhance, among other skills, the mathematical skills, basic mathematical skills. How do you see that you might address that issue? Are you addressing that issue? And what would be your, let's say, communication around that?
Yeah, so that's one of the core things we are doing, because in mathematics, everything builds on the previous issues. So you really have to understand the fundamentals to be able to work on and learn the new things. So that's at the core at everything we do. We want the student to learn and understand what they're doing and only continue afterwards. to the next subject. And this is sort of in contradiction with more or less globally every curriculum out there. The teachers are told that you have to do this subject, and this subject in this year, and then you need to continue. And basically we're wasting students' time because they study mathematics for 15 years, but when at that point they might be at the grade level of the same as a student in grade 4 because they've fallen off the wagon at some point, and then everything they learn the years afterwards is more or less useless.
Wow.
So that's a message to politicians and decision makers out there that really by actually looking at and ensuring that the student is understanding what they are taught, take a step back, and then we can save time, a lot of time, because then it goes quicker. So yeah, mathematics could be learned in a lot fewer years as well.
And what opportunities or challenges do you see among the students themselves who might be easier to use your product? And when it comes to, we can talk about motivation or general challenges that students might have in their abilities of learning mathematics, since it's quite a tough topic.
Yes.
What can you say around the students' perspective there?
Yeah. So there at the same time, we as human beings, we love it when we have a challenge at the right level. But if it's too easy, we get bored. If it's too difficult, we'll abandon it. And every student is the same. So actually at the beginning of school year, if you ask students in grade 1, do they like mathematics? It's more or less the whole class that will say that, yes, I like it, because they've learned to calculate the numbers and they know the first things, and that's like what the kid is eager about. But then when it becomes difficult and they cannot get the help they need, then it feels too difficult and they'll just shut down and say that, no, I can't do this, math is not for me. And really finding that right level for a student is one of the key to keeping the motivation up. There are a lot of other ones because we all learn in different ways. So that's another thing. Some might learn by listening, others might learn by trying, some might learn by discussing. So the way that we learn is different. But one really crucial thing is not to continue if the students haven't understood, because that will kill motivation.
Of course, and it's strange that you can actually continue without actually having the knowledge needed. Or the skills needed. And so how do you address that? So how do you pinpoint when to come in with your solution, and how does your solution address the issue at the right time?
Right, yeah. So what we've focused on is giving the student feedback at the right immediately. So when a student does an assignment in eMathStudio, they can then use the math checker there to see if this is correct or not. And it will show for each step in the calculation. So it's actually looking at what the student has tried to do. There's no model solution behind it, because in mathematics everybody can solve their problems in different ways, and that's also a motivational killer if you try to do it one way and then the book says that nope, or the teacher says that no, you can't do it like this is totally wrong. So what we do is we have developed technology that can look at what you tried to do, and it will show you exactly where you did a mistake, and then you can start unraveling it from there. So if you've gotten that far, that you got the calculation, then you can see that, okay, I did these 3 steps correctly, but then I made a mistake, and then again I did some things correctly. The answer will, of course, be wrong, but then you can start addressing that thing.
Pinpoint the exact mistake. Yeah.
And that's the starting point, and you can do that in many different ways. Some can solve it by themselves, some can get more information, some can ask the teacher, and the teacher will, of course, see also where the student is and what problems they're having. So that's one of the things, that immediate feedback when you're doing it, because if it's an exam, it's too late. Nobody will look. You get a grade,
of course,
a C, a B, A, or in Finland, a 6.5. You won't look at the paper anymore afterwards.
Exactly, the entire evaluation system that is like totally summative only talks about the past and doesn't really help you with any tools about the future.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, and there's this flipped assessment mathematics teacher in Finland that is a pioneer in the field. Maybe we can refer to that also. But I wanted to ask more about your specific research that the product and company is based on. What are the key points and the specific results, maybe tests you've done that you actually use to communicate the value of this in general? Yeah. And then maybe you can refer to it also more global research in this field, like how do you relate to that, and is there enough knowledge about this among the teacher community, decision makers in education, and so on?
Yeah. To start off, there's very little research on actual learning outcomes. It's very difficult there are some, but it's very difficult because you have the students of the research. You can't play around with them, so it has to be like they have to get the education that they should get. So that's one thing, of course, that is really an ethical, important thing to see, that the students should always be learning. So trying things is difficult in a school world. Another thing is that it's a long process, of course. It's many years, and then students change and teachers are different. So there are so many variables in the research that there are not many publications and like long research studies on what actually works. The longest one we have been able to do is from the earliest ones. We had a 3-year then study in high school mathematics, and there we compared then the learning results from students with the same teacher, obviously different groups and different years, but how the teacher then, so it was same teacher, students for 3 years, around 150 students in total were the subject then of the study. And there we could see then the thing that we were investigating was how the simple thing of a student understanding how they should structure their answer, and that they should explain what they are doing. So when mathematics becomes difficult, reasoning is important there. So not just memorizing and writing formulas after each other, but actually explaining that I am doing this now because, and what you understand about the environment, and I'm using this rule and so forth, and then I can do this. So all of these things inside the actual calculations are really important. So getting this into the system then for the students, it improved the average grade in all of the 10 subject classes that are in high school in mathematics, with 1 or 2 average grades. So 1 or 2 grades higher math grades from these classes. And really one of the important things was that in Finland, usually a large percentage changes from advanced mathematics into the shorter mathematics, because they give up then at some point. They start out and they want to do it, but then they give up.
Maybe you can explain that a little bit. That in Finland we have the option you can choose short mathematics or long mathematics. Yeah. Maybe you can just explain that, how it works, and then that statistic that actually people go back to the short one.
Yes. So it's a division you can choose freely, and the long mathematic version, so that's 10 courses that are compulsory.
At high school level?
In high school level, yeah. And the short one is then 6 compulsory courses, I think. In these, then you can choose at any time, but then you write the national exam, matriculation exam, then you choose if you're writing the short or the longer version. And the emphasis in the shorter one is more on practical, but really it's not that clear, the division. It's more less of the theory in the shorter one, and in the longer one more of it. So that's the basics there. Usually a student, then if they give up, they will change to the short one and give up there on the long one. But here we could see that none of the students in the classes changed back. So it can
so that's fantastic. So is there a trend that you can say that from a specific year there's more and more shift from the long to the short mathematics, and that in your specific cases there's not that kind of shift?
Yes. So no, we don't have the research to back it up in like the continuous one. It's difficult information to get. It's something I do want to gather on a national level. How many do actually shift down, and also in the cases of the schools that are using our products, how many do not? So.
I mean, just to mention a little bit the PISA results, that people are worried about the PISA results, whereas my perspective is that, okay, why would the PISA results be the reference for everyone? And let's say that if the mathematical skills are going down, maybe to start with, not 100% of the class even should be expected to be good at mathematics necessarily. No. So that you are more finding your own way, whereas a majority might be happy with the short mathematics or maybe even basic or maybe no mathematics. That should be fine and should not be, let's say, something that defines the future policies of a country because of the results from the PISA studies. But on the other hand, those who actually are interested in mathematics and who would benefit from learning more and continuing without being bored or left behind, but having tools that can help, they should be able to continue with the advanced mathematics if they chose advanced mathematics to start with. So there is an interest, and then having tools that help that. And I think EdTech as an industry or tools for better education through technology came back in the days to target specifically children with specific needs or special needs. And then we quickly on, maybe 20 years ago, started learning that, maybe everyone has some kind of special needs, but maybe related even to motivation problems. And sitting in a classroom all day is not really healthy for a child to start with. So everyone could be expected to have some kind of motivation issues. But really, how do you then inspire further, let's say, interest in mathematics? Let's say, first and foremost, for those who have an ability to continue and an interest to continue with mathematics, but then also inspire those who might not even know the opportunities ahead with your specific tool and maybe the research around it. And I wanted also to ask maybe about the early experiences from the math teachers, the STEM teachers that were part of the research. Maybe you can mention a little bit more about them. What were their practical experience, which is, I would say, equally as valid to start with compared to, let's say, research results.
Some of the like comments from the early trials there that come to mind are that some of the STEM teachers, they said that, well, now I can really understand what the student is trying to do. So that's like one of the revelations that this is wonderful. I can see what they're trying to do. On the student side, there was also a similar one that now I understand what I'm doing, so it becomes clear. So that's one of the ones that we really like cherish and show that it's working, the things we're trying to do. On the motivational side there, one of the things we do is also this mapping of skills, and for a student to understand at what level they are, so to say, and what they should learn, and according to the curriculum. So what is it that's expected from them, and also where are they now? So this is one of the things that when a student then is looking at how much math should I study and what are my future sort of options. In some of the high schools where we work, the teachers use these then as the starting point then. So they have this baseline test and they see what can the student at this moment do, how far away is it from being able to take advanced mathematics. And then they can, so it's in the form of a map of mathematics that we've made, and the student can clearly see which skills they have mastered and which they haven't. And together with the teacher, they then discuss, like, okay, so what is it that, this is the situation you are at now. What would you, like, if you want to continue with the advanced mathematics, you need to, like, learn these issues, and it will require more work from you. Are you ready to put that work into it? So comparing what the student wants to do, where it wants to go, what's the ultimate goal, and also how much work do they have available if they are doing a lot of athletics and or have some other hobby that's taking a lot of time. Do they have enough time compared to the challenge they're in for? So that's a good starting point then to see them.
Yeah, and the discipline. I think that's something common in that I read about entrepreneurship, that some entrepreneurs have a lot of ambitions to conquer the world or whatever, improve the world, improve something, but they don't have the discipline, like most of us don't have the discipline to actually execute on that. We don't really know what it really requires. Yeah. Also for a student my son chose a fifth language. He's 9 years old, speaks 4 languages, well, including English that he just started studying, that he understands quite well, but had the opportunity to choose a fifth language. So together with one friend, they decided, we want to study German as well next year, starting 4th grade. But there was no recommendation from the teacher saying that now there's this opportunity, you should maybe look at it, rather than, okay, we have this opportunity, but you should really think critically about the child's time, energy, how has the performance been so far, would they have the discipline enough to take on another language. So and we also he speaks Spanish and Swedish at home and Finnish in school. So we think, okay, maybe it's okay that you don't take another language, but he really wanted to. So now he's going to start studying a fifth language at the age of 4, in fourth grade at the age of 9, 10 soon. But really, it has to be individual. So most children would not want to study more another language because he already has to go to another school to study Spanish once a week. Yeah. So I'm a little bit worried about children who are pushed rather to study more mathematics, more languages, more topics, and also more sports, more musics, and so on. Whereas we try to have this play-based childhood back in the game, where Finland is also a forerunner. Like, we have a lot of free time, a lot of fun learning into the approach. Yeah. But at the same time, we have very strong academic results on a global scale. Yeah. So that balance, do you see that there's some specific ingredients on a national level in Finland that you would like to highlight when it comes to mathematics in particular? I mean, Finland is known for being a very literate country since a long time. Yep. So we have a high reading skills. But when it comes to mathematics, what can you say about that?
Yeah, they are of course also connected, reading and mathematics. So that's also one of the things it's really important for a child to be able to read fluently and understand the terminology when they are then reading the assignments in mathematics. So that's also one thing that can be a problem. You're doing worse in math because you are not understanding what text tells you to do. And that has nothing to do with mathematics.
Exactly.
But yeah, generally, it's more or less, I feel it's the same core in all subjects and learning in Finland, is that we do want students to learn what they're doing. It's not as much like understand what they are doing. It's not as much learning by memory and by heart. That's not as important in Finnish pedagogy. It's more that you understand enough so that you can look things up and you know what to look for, and not as much all the numbers by heart and everything. And that makes it possible. So my daughter, she's been like, I'm using her as a test person there, of course, with our...
Yeah, my son is our experiment with languages as well, starting out with 3 in the beginning, and now he already wants a 5th. So it's working, the experiment so far.
So when she's been younger, so we've been doing like an 8th grade math assessment of, but she's been trying to do that when she was in grade 4. And then she was able, you could clearly see that the things that she had understood, she was able to figure them out a little bit. And that's the really important thing in mathematics, that if you have understood it, you can figure out things that you haven't seen before, and in all other subjects as well. And I think that's a Finnish really great
fantastic. So then you can validate my theoretical understanding of the reason why we have had so high test results on the PISA studies, that we because we don't have standardized testing, so we're not prepared for standardized testing, but we're prepared for the process that is required to figure things out and solve problems when we get a test. Yeah. So is that correct?
Yeah, I agree completely with that theory.
Fantastic, yeah. So I'm also like doing a lot of teacher training, and there's one question that I have for you that a mathematics teacher could not really reply on, when I was talking about phenomenon-based learning and how important it is for children to understand why they learn things and how it is connected to reality and my reality. Yeah. And of course, my argument is that all these subjects are created or were created throughout history to explain reality. And this mathematics teacher, she couldn't think of a way to tell her children how this is connected to reality. And I said, okay, so how do you think then that the child will be motivated to study mathematics with you? Well, we talk a lot about phenomena-based learning in Finland, how we study phenomena, and then we connect the subjects from different angles to describe the phenomena, but the children's interest is to explain the phenomenon. What are your thoughts around this?
Yeah, I also feel the same way. You have to have the connection and understand that this is something I will need at some point. And that is a clash in mathematics. So I see it as a balance that at some point you need to get the motivation from why am I doing this, and what is it I'm doing, and understand that. But then after getting this insight, however it is, if you're out in the real world, you are doing something, looking at some statistics, analytics, or something that's interesting to you, or you are having a pizza that you're sharing at that point, and understanding that if I share it there, how should we actually share this pizza if the slices are different size, and these kind of things. From understanding that, then you have to move at some point into the mechanical calculation to understand how can I now use this, and how can I get fluent in this. But then you're at least understanding what you're doing. And from there, then understanding how I do it once, that's good, and then you know it. Then you can slowly repeat it when next time you have the pizza to share. But if you have to do it like this, then it's something that requires, when you are further in your math studies, some things you'll have to do quicker. So then it's good to practice it a lot more, and then you can use that competency more easily. So after that sort of phase where you feel comfortable with it, so you have understood it, first you have gotten the motivation for it, then you've understood it, then you practice it to become fluent. Then you can also go into looking okay, so what can the computer do for me? What do I not have to calculate? So you go into bigger problems. And see that, okay, so if I had mind like this, I could solve the problem. But you understand sort of what that technology is doing for you, and helping you solve really big problems. And this can be done at lower grades already. But it has to move from the thing that they understand forward, and then back again to the next subject. So it's a loop of these different phases.
Is that connected to type 1 and type 2 kind of thinking from the book Thinking Fast and Slow?
Where I have not read it.
Okay, because I think that theory is very solid. I don't remember it well now, but one is based on its intuition, that you have studied or worked a lot with some specific topic, and then based on your intuition, you know the answer immediately. So you think very fast to take decisions. Like solving problems, you know immediately. But then they have the slower kind of thinking that requires an analytical process. I will not reference this more because I don't remember really the book, but I think I've been recommended it also to reread it many times. So I didn't even read the entire book, but I really liked the hypothesis. But to expand a little bit on the phenomena-based learning, how do you see that as a methodology going hand in hand with mathematics, if at all, and how would you promote that? Do you do teacher trainings also in your company? What's your, let's say, the researchers, what do they do with your product? Do you have teacher training as part of it? Do you use other, let's say, pedagogic models around your tool?
So we see us as a tool that teachers can use for any pedagogical method they have. So we're not really connecting to a specific one. We're making it possible to get data from what they are doing, so they can understand, are their students learning or are they not when I'm doing it this way. Really I see mathematics as a very complex subject to teach also, and it requires all different methods. So phenomenon-based learning is really a good one, and one part of it. But we don't have anything specific for it. The only thing that we have in our tool is that you can add your own material, and you can add your own videos and add assignments and everything. So you can build your lesson plan along.
As a teacher,
As a teacher, if you want to teach it that way. With the introduction of AI, there are, of course, a lot of new possibilities as well. So we've included also AI assistant in the system, and then when you have a problem, then you can also move out from that into the phenomenon-based learning. It's also possible to start.
And I think this is important to highlight. So AI is not magic; it's basically mathematics. Maybe you can tell a little bit about your approach to to incorporating AI? So do you have maybe not a pedagogical thinking around it? Maybe you're more focused on advancing mathematical skills with assistance from AI. But when I talk about AI, I usually use it together with the Socratic method. I think it's important for children to learn how to ask better questions, and also with better prompts. Let's say with ChatGPT, you get better quality answers, but you also need to be able to evaluate those answers instead of just having an AI assistant doing everything for you. And how do you use that for mathematical and advancement, really cognitive advancement, instead of replacement of your own thinking?
Yeah, so it's one of the methods is really like searching for new things to look into. So that's a really interesting part of it. So if there's a concept that you don't understand, then you can ask the AI assistant, and it will of course open up more like things. And then the critical evaluation on what it's saying is really important. So trying to then work with that, like there can be so many ways of how to get the student forward from that, and it will just spark more questions, and that's one of the things that when you hear a little bit of an answer, then you get more questions. It's like why and why and why and why, and you can move from one area into another area very, very quickly. So that's a very interesting new possibility. The teacher wouldn't have had time to like answer all the whys, and the students maybe don't dare to ask that many questions.
Okay, great. I wanted to ask about your potential recommendations to policymakers. So would you, based on your insights and knowledge you have of the mathematical needs children have and the opportunities to develop further instead of getting stuck in this when they get bored and then they give up and then they might not continue even pursuing a mathematical, let's say, degree or studies with mathematics. Since you have solid knowledge, at least based on your limited, let's say, research or your trials and your understanding of how mathematics works for children, do you give policy recommendations, or would you feel that you would like to do that, or do you see you would need to do that to have better mathematical studies in school? I'm asking because I think also a lot of policymakers, they don't know how to implement things. They're not pedagogues usually. They might not even have pedagogical research consulting them enough. And they just know, like, they have some targets about what we want, but how to get there they might not have. So thinking about the Finnish National Core Curriculum, now it's about 10 years old. 2014 to 2016 it was implemented. So I heard on the news that we usually have a researcher talking from a university, was it just yesterday, about Finland usually reforming its curriculum every 10 years. So it's really the 10th year, and now with so much social technological advancement, we might even need to reform it way more frequently. So do you follow the curriculum on a national level, also international level, or do you try to push towards the next one?
Well, in our product, when we're looking at if the student is learning the skills they should, then we follow the curriculum, and that's what the teachers and the school want. That we're actually looking at is the student learning the things they want to learn. But then we add into that what we see that they also should learn. So if you just follow the curriculum, it might be missing things on the way. And that's of course because there are just a few people who have designed it behind it, and then it stays for a while and it needs to be tested. And this is things that teachers in Finland also, they see what the students should learn and what does the curriculum say, and then they add things when they see that this is needed as well for the understanding. So it is the guideline of what to teach and what to reach, but then you can do it in different ways to see that you get towards it. But I do think in Finland, one of the core things is that the National Board of Education works also with teachers and education technology providers and publishers. So that's one of the things that that needs to be all the time there. So as technology is advancing, it's really good that there is this cooperation, that you can hear from all the different sides what is needed and what changes need to be made now, what's not working today anymore. One of the ones that are not in the decisions as much are teachers, and that's so wrong. I don't know how to solve it, but that is a voice that should be heard, because there are so many, of course, and there are different opinions. But in some way, get that more into the decision making. But overall, one of the problems in the curriculum is of course grading, and there are certain criteria to get certain grades, and that's not really working at the moment as it is. Myself, I'm for, of course, as far as possible, solving problems without grades, because it's all about learning. So getting to a point where you don't need it.
Fantastic. So let's have your take on how you would want to see if we can still call it the evaluation of the mathematical competencies and skills that are being developed. How would an ideal evaluation be? How would you be able to make sure that the children are progressing on a continuous formative manner, or any way that you see better than the present ways?
So my vision and our whole company's vision is that actually we can look at what the student has. The student can see what they are supposed to learn, what's expected from them. And then they are showing that they are learning the things. And in mathematics, it's easy to break it down into very small pieces of understanding. And that's also when a student can understand, now I've learned this small thing here. And all the small things, they become a big thing eventually. Then you can see that the student is progressing, because it's learning this thing, it's learning this thing, it's learning this thing. I really don't like mean values. That's sort of like, it just, all the information disappears in a mean value. And that's a grade. So it's about the content. So I'm learning this thing, I'm learning this thing, I'm learning this thing. And of course you can see that the student is progressing then. And that gives motivation to continue, and also a chance for the student to say that I'm not really interested in this area here, but I'm excelling in these things, which can be inside a subject, different things as well.
So that requires a lot of faith and authority given to the students to self-evaluate quite a lot themselves, and autonomy, which is like a part of the independence that we need children to start developing as early as possible, to some extent. But what would be the teacher's role in this environment? And then maybe you can refer to the parents' role as well.
Yeah. Well, students are probably going to be lazy anyway. So one important thing for the teacher is to push them and like get them to understand that they can work with things and give praise where it's needed and help where it's needed. So very specifically actually looking at the student's situation, and if they're having a bad day, then it has to be understandable also that it might not work today, but it will work another day. So it's a lot of people skills there, and that it has always been. But very much the explanation part. We're pretty far away from AI still understanding the student needs. We're getting there. It's going very quickly forward. But still, if we can get a lot of help from data analytics in understanding, so that the teacher can quickly see what the situation is, and also quickly create material, because the teacher understands that, okay, this is what's needed for the student to learn. So then there's a small part there in seeing the reactions, which is really important for the teacher then.
And how do you see parents' role here? Because now there's still a lot of debates about technology, good or bad, screen time, good or bad. There's not really any qualitative debate happening on how and why. It's rather than yes or no and prohibition or no. And the regulation debate is very in its infancy regarding everything related to technology, not to talk about AI, which has come now as a panic attack for a lot of policymakers. How would you see that, society's role, parents' role, when we have children, let's say with smartphones from early age, which is one of the big, let's say, technology boosts for children's. Maybe you can start with iPads even. Many people, I think, still use them as a nanny for the children. Yeah. But with the excuse that, through technology you can learn so many things. And so what's your take on the recommendations maybe to parents? What to think about? Should school take care of the technology use in mathematics in this case, or in general? Or do we have the dialogue with parents and follow parents' suggestions as well?
Well, that's a big world to navigate inside. And as a parent, it's difficult to know when it's too much. And of course, I mean, there's like the things we allow our kids to do while we're not looking, because we are ourselves looking at our own devices and we're ourselves lazy.
As bad role models usually.
Yeah, bad role models, and then we're lazy and tired. The kid is crying. We're like, okay, take the iPad and I'll have a quiet time for myself. And this will of course backfire at some point, because they will get more angry and it will go in that cycle. But one of the things that we can see in schools, and teachers are saying this all the time, is of course the attention span. It is changing and has changed radically. The generation that our children now are in, everything happens very quickly. And they get used to it. So you see a TikTok movie there, or then you can see that, like in older age, we can't even see the pictures because our brains are not fast enough for it. It's just changing.
Yeah, I think movie is to give too much credit to TikTok, because what I've understood that the big difference with TikTok, as opposed to, let's say, other social media channels, is that you still, let's say, even in Instagram, have a narrative. Yeah. There's like a beginning that hooks you, and then a middle that kind of teaches you or shows you something entertaining, and then you have an end. Yeah. But in TikTok, they're so fast that you just like, boom, like a distraction of entertainment, and there's no, let's say, narrative. It's like a 5-second video, 10-second video. And that's kind of the tricky thing also, because you get addicted in a different way. It's not like because of the narrative, because of... there's some recent research on that that I'm curious to look into more deeply.
Yeah, sounds very interesting.
But but the attention span with mathematics, you need to be able to concentrate. Yeah. I mean, sometimes, even for adults, it's very difficult to find the space and time to sit down and do 25 minutes of concentrated work. Yeah. So there's techniques for that and so on. But should we accept this, that we have let the attention span become worse than for a goldfish, which is the case? Or do we try to work towards learning or teaching children to concentrate better? Because the concentration skill is also a skill that we have not really paid attention to. Yeah. And should we increase the attention span as a top priority rather than try to accommodate?
Yeah. So it's a good question, and when those of us that we are older and we're used to this, then we of course feel that a longer attention span is something they need to learn, and they need to have that. And as you said, in mathematics, it is crucial that you are able to actually focus for a while, otherwise you won't get further. The other side that I can see in the younger ones is of course that they are learning like very quickly, and they're grasping like larger concepts. So it's a major change in our world, society, and to see that was our way the right way, or is the young one going totally in the wrong direction, which it feels like, or is there something that can everything around it evolve so that we can actually be that quick and only focus when we are like doing the things that we need to focus on. But yes, I feel that we do need to teach them still a way to focus, and that needs to be taught in school, and that's one of the key issues there.
Yeah, I think so too, and I think maybe there's a balance between the deep work that requires a lot of concentration, and also this more technically savvy opportunities for children. When you see, I mean, we don't know the potential of a human being even yet. I mean, in our modern world, because we are not exploring it properly. The school is not the best place either to explore the human potential, whereas we see how fast, as you said, children learn with technology, so many things. And so a combination there with a balance, I think, is something we would need to try to find. What is the balance? And not go into any extreme. to try to go back to our days will not either work because society is completely different. We're dependent on technologies that we didn't even imagine back then. So there's opportunities to use these technologies for very productive developments of humanity. But it's a tricky balance. It can go the other way also. Yeah. And with AI, so final words on AI as a strong mathematics proponent. What would be your recommendations for and or against? What should people think around AI as a concept, since it's still 1.5 years later, kind of a hype thing that people are really reacting strongly to, instead of like with most developments, paying attention, learning properly over some time before taking radical decisions. Yeah. What's your final words on that?
Yeah, so one of the crucial things is of course the data and the protection of it that we do really need to follow all the time. Currently it is going and all the things we are writing is being used, and that's of course the scary part there. That's we're not in control of what we're producing and where our data is going. The benefits, of course, are amazing of what we can do with it, and just in individual learning, it's a lot of potential there, actually becoming possible for students to discuss and show and everything with all the different modes of communication that are now possible as well. Yeah, so.
Should we be worried or should we be excited?
Yeah, I think we should be excited and try the things and just look to it that we're doing everything we can to protect the data, and then also track all the time as well. So that's one of the important things to decision makers to be aware and follow what's happening all the time.
Great. So where can people find more about you and Four Ferries and eMathStudio?
So go on to eMathStudio.com and there you can have a look and send a request for a demo if you're a teacher and you want to try it in school. And if you are a parent or a student, then just go ahead and create an account and start trying our solutions there.
Fantastic. So thank you so much, Ida, and I hope to follow your progress and continue talking more at another opportunity.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.